It's April in North Texas, and that means a lot of our flowers are blossoming. And today we'd like to show you our flower garden tour because it's just so beautiful here. This is the in-ground bed that my husband created last year. We have heavy clay soil and he put a lot of amendment in there. And so now we have this productive, beautiful flower bed. Last fall, I planted a few ranunculus corms in this in-ground bed, and you can see that they are blooming. Some of them actually finished blooming, but new flower buds are coming up, so they're going to bloom for quite a while. And we will start our flower garden tour right here. You can see that in the very back we have a foxglove that I started from seed last year. It did not bloom, but it's going to bloom this year. You can see new flower buds about to open. And right next to it, you can see the yellow ranunculus, and then there's white ranunculus, red ranunculus. We have ranunculus of all colors. They are amazingly beautiful and very attractive for the birds. Right next to the ranunculus, right here, I planted a new variety of marigold. This is Jester marigold, and one of them is about to open right here. This is mostly a perennial flower bed, but in between the perennials, I planted a few annuals. Right here we have status that is not blooming just yet. This is one of the lupines, but this is not a native variety, so I'm not going to save seeds. I'm just going to let it finish blooming. And then right here we have pansies. This is getting a little bit too late here. North Texas is getting warm, so I'll have to pull them out and plant some other annuals like zinnias or maybe other kind. And then again, we have more ranunculus here. In the very back, we have some containers with pansies and also dusty miller. And you can tell that it's getting a little too warm for them. So I'll have to remove those pansies and plant heat-loving annuals in those containers. And then in front of them, we have the salvia. It's called Mystic Spire Salvia. Last year it bloomed non-stop all the way until we got our first freeze, and you can see that it's about to start blooming. In front of the Mystic Spire Salvia, we have Salvia romeriana that I started from seed a year ago. It was last spring, and it did not bloom much last year because I planted it in a container, and apparently they don't like being planted in small containers. In small containers they don't bloom much, so I moved it into this in-ground bed, and now you can tell that it's blooming profusely. And yesterday my daughters told me that they saw a few hummingbirds feeding on the flowers. Right next to it you can see this beard tongue, or it's also called foxglove penstemon. I actually dug it up from the side of the road. This is native here in North Texas, and you can tell it's about to bloom. And right next to it, I know it's tiny, but nevertheless it's beautiful. It's purple. This is Drummond's skullcap. It's also perennial here in North Texas, and I'm hoping it will multiply over the years and it'll be nice and purple in early spring. Now right here, you see these beautiful daisy-like flowers. This is Blackfoot daisy. It stayed green all throughout the winter, and it was one of the very first flowers to start blooming in late winter and early spring. Behind it, you can see this beautiful flower that I got on clearance last year at Walmart, and it's blooming. This is Snapdragon. I planted it without really knowing how to grow it, but it stayed green mostly through the winter, and now it's blooming in the spring. Right here we have bachelor buttons. They're blue and purple. I moved this bachelor button from another area in our garden that has a lot of volunteer bachelor buttons, and it never stopped blooming. It didn't go through any transplant shock. It just keeps blooming. And in front of it there is more pansy that I need to pull up, but this is lyrical rose salvia that last year I planted here. I believe it was in the spring. It never really bloomed, but you can see that it's putting out nice blooms, and it's a perennial here. And then right here we have our amazing lavender. It's called cotton lavender, and I think it's about to start blooming. I think it's supposed to have yellow flowers, and we'll have another garden tour once it starts blooming. We created this small flower bed for my daughters last year. We didn't really amend the soil. We just put a lot of cardboard and then some potting soil on top and planted seeds right into it. But this year you can see this is common sage, I believe. I use it in cooking a lot, but it turns out it can also be a very beautiful spring flower. It has all these purple flowers that will turn to seeds. I'll be able to harvest them and plant them or share. But sage is very easily propagated through cuttings. And we also have some pansies here. And then behind the pansies, we have this flower that's about to open, and I believe this is Coreopsis, one of the varieties. It has yellow flowers. We have another one that's a smaller variety. So I'm excited to see what it's going to look like when it's all covered in bright yellow blooms. And right next to it, we have another bachelor button that we moved from the other part of our garden. In this corner of our backyard, we have this plant. It's called Salvia greggi. It's native here in North Texas. I believe this is not the best location for this plant. I think next year I'll move it to a different location that is not as enclosed, where it can get more sun and more space to grow. But you can see that it has very pretty pink flowers. It is also a perennial, and I'm trying to propagate it right now through a cutting. I have a cutting under our grow lights, and we'll see how it goes, and I might make a video about that. This is another perennial sage that's native to North Texas. This is called Millie Blue Sage, and it was also one of the very first flowers to start blooming this early spring. If you struggle with growing perennial flowers, I highly recommend growing salvias or sages. They're so easy to grow. You literally just put them in the ground, water them a few times, and they keep blooming all season long. And that's all we wanted to show y'all today. We're so excited with the way this flower bed turned out, and I can't wait to see what other flowers will open up soon. Thank you so much for watching this video, and happy gardening.